Yo, 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 what's up? It's your boy Brian. We're here with the Bleacher Boys podcast. I'm doing a solo show this week. It's just me. Gavin's out on vacation enjoying his lovely lady and his family. So I'm going to hold the fort down. Hopefully, I can do this thing solo. We're going to go on for a ride. But before we get started, make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us grow the page. It really helps us in the algorithm of YouTube and social media. So y'all join that on for us and let's jump right into it. So this week we're going to talk about three topics. I want to get into picking the NFL divisional winners this year. I want to talk about what NBA teams have the best odds at making to the conference championship this year, because obviously each year is different, but there are some new teams in the mix this year, and I'm very interested to see how next year's NBA season is going to play out. And then I want to propose a rule change, and I saw something on Twitter, and I want to expound on it because I think it's something that can make baseball continue to get faster, but more importantly, make it more exciting and make it more fan and family friendly as well. So we'll get into that a little bit later. But first, let's go ahead and dive into the NFL divisional winners. We're going to start with the NFC, and I'm going to go division by division, and I'm going to give a reason why I'm picking my divisional winners. And then I'm also going to give the three wild card winners as well. I'm not going to pick who I think is going to win the conference, but picking the divisional winners because I know I'm somebody who's a very light sports gambler, but I just like looking at those numbers and that data and trying to predict things. But I know a lot of my buddies and friends that I talk to, they're into the sports gambling thing and the props. But I like talking about the futures bets because, doing things week to week is fun, interesting, exciting. But trying to predict how a whole season is going to play out to me has a lot more intrigue as we go through the 17-week NFL journey. So let's start on the NFC. So let's start with the NFC North. So I'm going to go with the team who I put money on last year to win. I think I was just 1 year too early, but I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers to win the NFC North. And the Lions have been the overwhelming dominant team in that division the last couple of years. The Vikings came out of nowhere and they probably still have the best top to bottom roster, but I think the Lions losing their center, who was a Pro Bowl level, all pro level center, and more importantly, using both of their coordinators at the same time is just going to have them step back one, maybe two steps this year. And I think that's enough for them to miss out on winning the division. And I think if Jordan Love doesn't come out getting injured that first game playing the Eagles in Brazil last year, which kind of made his year really erratic and I think slowed his progress. Now, don't get me wrong, Jordan Love has been a little bit of a gunslinger, but I think he rings that in this year. I think he gets those sloppy interceptions out of the way and continues to throw a lot of touchdowns. But more importantly, I expect Matt LaFleur and Josh Jacobs to continue to put together a great running game and that be controlling factor. And more importantly, I think the Packers wide receivers are due to be healthy this year. They've dealt with an unhealthy wide receiver core, inconsistent wide receiver core in the last couple of years, and them drafting Golden with their first round draft pick, him falling all the way to the Packers. A lot of teams expected to go in the top 15. I think that's going to help solidify their offensive firepower. And the fifth quarter they brought in last year really helped solidify their defensive side of the ball. And I think the Packers are going to take the NFC North. NFC South. And you got to think every year there are anywhere from two to four new playoff teams, if not more, on each division. But each division normally has anywhere from two to three new playoff teams. So I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons this year. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have had a stranglehold on this division for the last few years, going back before Baker, even to the Tom Brady years. But I think Michael Penix is going to really make this offense move and shake and really get in the right direction. Their defense is solid, and their defense played well against teams like the Chiefs last year. They played against well against even the Buccaneers, who had a pretty high-powered offense last year. And I think the Atlanta Falcons are going to take that next step. But I really think that because Michael Penix can really spin it, and he is going to be the guy to be the catalyst for the offense. I think he's going to make Kyle Pitts better. I think he's going to take Drake London to another level, and it's not unforeseen that Bijan Robinson can't be the best running back in the NFL, at worst in the top 3 or 5. And if he is, then Drake London is a top 15 receiver, and Michael Penix could be a top 10 quarterback. The Falcons definitely should be the front runner for that division. With that being said, I do expect the Buccaneers to be very competitive this year, but they lost their offensive coordinator again. So again, I'm not sure how well their offense is going to be this year. Their defense, with Todd Bowles even being their coach, has been a little bit shaky. I do expect the Carolina Panthers to be a little bit better this year, but still not be quite enough to upset the Falcons on winning that division. In the NFC West, I'm going with the Los Angeles Rams. I think with a healthy Matt Stafford, a lot of their defense, especially defensive linemen Fisk and Jared Verse, I think those two guys being in year 2 really helps solidify one of the best defensive lines in the game. They have a solid offensive line. I think the addition of Devontae Adams, who still seems to have a lot of juice, and a healthy Puka Nacua and a high-scoring Kyrie Williams will be enough to have the Rams control this division wire to wire. The last couple of years, they've gotten off to some slow starts. I think this year they get off to a faster start. They gain control, and they don't lose control of that division. I expect the 49ers to be very competitive, and I expect the Seattle Seahawks to be very competitive. I actually think the Seattle Seahawks are a dark horse team to be a playoff team this year. I'm pretty sure going after week 13, 14 last year, the Seahawks had a chance to be a wild card team as well, and they kind of fell apart towards the end. A lot of that being on the play of Geno Smith. So I think with potentially better quarterback play from Sam Darnold, we'll see how he does coming over from the Minnesota Vikings. It'll be interesting to see how the Seattle, makes and shakes that division. I think the Los Angeles Rams, this is their year to continue to win that division, and we will see how that plays out. And last, the NFC East, I think the Eagles, even with a potential playoff hangover, I think they are still too talented. They kept all of their important pieces. They kept both of their coordinators, and they still have their quarterback and their head coach. For right now, I think a X factor that will be interesting to see how it plays out is their passing offense and how happy or disgruntled AJ Brown will be this year. But I still don't think that would be enough to offset winning and another chance to make a playoff run, another Super Bowl run. So I think the Philadelphia Eagles will be the team to beat out of that division. And I expect the Cowboys. I don't think the Commanders are going to necessarily take a step back. I think the Commanders team will be better, but teams will have a full season of scouting on Jaden Daniels. We'll see how he will handle a sophomore year. Will he continue to progress, or will he have a sophomore slump? But I fully expect with a healthy Dak this year that the Cowboys will be much more competitive. The Cowboys really weren't mathematically eliminated super early last year, even with Dak being out and Micah missing multiple weeks as well. So the Cowboys, I think, improved their roster. I like the pickup acquisition of George Pickens on a 1-year deal. If he can behave in the locker room and off the field and produce on the field alongside of CeeDee Lamb, who's a bona fide top 5 wide receiver, their offense could be very potent, and they could give them some leads and really allow Micah Parsons to do what he does best, which is rush the passer. And then, so my 3 wild card teams. So I'm going with the Minnesota Vikings. I still think their overall roster is just too good, and I really like Kevin O'Connell as a head coach and a play caller. Hopefully he learns from some of the mistakes last year. He got a little bit too pass happy, especially in that game towards the end of the season to play for the 1 seed for the playoffs and in the playoff games as well. But the Minnesota Vikings did lose both of their tackles, which made it really hard to slow down the pass rush and really gave Sam Darnold a lot of problems. But I like their run game. They might have the best wide receiver tandem in the league. They might have the best wide receiver in the league, and G.J. Hockenson, tight end, is very good as well. And they have a bona fide great defense. They have a lot of takeaways. I expect more takeaways this year, or at least the same amount. So I like the Vikings as a wild card team. I like the 49ers as a wild card team. Now, statistically speaking, the 49ers have one of the easiest schedules heading into this season. I don't believe there are truly easy schedules, but just ranking the opponents of who they play based off last year, and I expect the 49ers to be a lot healthier this year. They were decimated with injuries from McCaffrey to Trent to Brandon, wide receiver, missing the whole year. So we'll see how all those guys come back and can they maintain a healthy and can, or even their rookie wide receiver as well, and Jennings coming back. I expect the wide receiver core to take a step forward. I expect McCaffrey to come back and be healthy. I'm not expecting McCaffrey to be a top 5 back again, but if he can be a 1,200 to 1,400 yard guy scoring double digit touchdowns, the 49ers are going to find themselves back in the playoffs again as a wild card team. So I think those three wild card teams, the Vikings, the Cowboys, and the 49ers, round out the wild card. So let's move over to the AFC. We will start with the North with the AFC. I'm going with the Steelers this year. Um, I don't think the Ravens will necessarily drop off, but I think the Ravens will have one of the more difficult years in their division this year versus other years. And the Bengals always play them well, the Steelers obviously always play them well, and the Browns play them well. But this could be a year where they possibly don't split their games in their division. And if they don't, and the Steelers have the advantage in that, I think that puts them over the hump for the Steelers to win their division. I think them just getting a better decision maker and thrower of the football, getting DK and swapping that out for George Pickens, who I think needed an environment change. I like the running back they drafted in the second round. Now, the big question for the Steelers is TJ Watt going to resign there, or not necessarily resign, but is he going to sign an extension? Is he going to be happy? I think the Steelers are going to make that happen, and that's what I'm basing this off of. I'm going to do another one right before the season. If I'm going to give all my bets for the year at that time, hopefully Gavin can join me in for that one. But I have the Steelers winning the AFC North this year. And just to throw this in, I have the Bengals missing the playoffs again for a third straight year. The AFC South, I'm picking this team based on the potential of the head coach. But I think Liam Cohen bringing in his scheme, being somewhat of a quarterback whisperer, he's done a great job at every place he's been. I think coming from the Rams, coming over to the Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield have a career year this year. I think Trevor Lawrence stays healthy. He has one of the best wide receivers in the league, and Brian Thomas Jr. I think Travis Henry could be a solid second wide receiver for them. And I love their running backs. I love their running back room. I think Tank Bigsby is going to be great for them again. And I don't expect their defense to be as terrible as it was this year. If their defense could just be somewhere even between 12 and 18 this year, I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are the team to beat in the AFC South. But I wouldn't be surprised, obviously, if Texans come back and win that division for a third straight year. And I also wouldn't really be surprised if the Tennessee Titans take a huge leap forward and Kim Ward has a CJ Stroud, Jaden Daniels type year, takes the league by storm, and comes out and wins that division, or at least makes it as a wild card team. But I think the Tennessee Titans are going to take a big step forward, but not quite enough of a step forward to make the playoffs this year. But I will be watching and rooting for the Tennessee Titans this year, even though there's a lot of local fans here who don't like me because I'm a Chiefs fan at heart. But I do like what the Titans have done. I like what I think they're going to do, and they are definitely going to make some noise. And they have only one primetime game all year, and that's versus the Chiefs. So they're going to be able to fly under the radar. And I think they're going to catch up and sneak up on a lot of teams, just like CJ Stroud and the Texans did 2 years ago. So for the AFC West, I have the Chiefs continuing to win that division. I know a lot of sports pundits and sports analysts are wanting the Chiefs to fall off their pedestal I know a lot of them are trying to predict, and this is the year that they finally do it, but I just don't see it happening. Now, granted, they probably have the most difficult schedule this year with the different days they're playing on, the different time zones they're playing in, the different countries they're playing in. But I still think, for one, they've been adept to this. They've had a lot of experience dealing with all the Taylor Swift stuff and the tour stuff and all the I think they've had a lot of experience already in being in multiple Super Bowls of figuring out the logistics to be able to be prepared and be ready. And I think as long as Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are both there, I think the Chiefs will continue to win this division. But I definitely think if everybody stays healthy, especially the main prospects and players, I think this will be the most competitive that this division has been. And I think all four teams will be very, very, very good this year. I think the Raiders take a big step forward, having a more solidified head coach, adding in Ashton Jenney and getting their defense back healthy, and bringing over Geno Smith to be an upgrade from Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. I think Bo Nix and Justin Herbert both continue to improve, get better. Both of them added first-round running backs, so I think that's a big deal. And both of them had two of the best defenses last year, and I think both of those defenses continue to translate into this year. And lastly, in the AFC East, I have the Buffalo Bills continuing to win that division. I think as long as, for the time being, as long as Sean McDermott and Josh Allen are heading the helm there, and Miami Dolphins continue to be dysfunctional, there's still a lot of noise there. They can't seem to get their feet underneath them. Even when they have a good year, they can't repeat it. I think the Patriots are just 1 year away, but if the Patriots continue to trend the way they are, I could definitely see them winning the division 2 years from now, just not next year. But I like Mike Vrabel coming in as a culture setter and a head coach there, and I really like what I saw at Drake and May last year. I like the good with the bad, so I think, and they had spent a lot of money on defense and offensive side, so we will see how the Patriots do next year. So my three wild card teams for the AFC. I have the Ravens, I have the Patriots, and I have the Denver Broncos. I think the Ravens are still just too good. Lamar Jackson is not somebody who should ever be disrespected. He has proven he's a two-time MVP, could be a three-time MVP. He's one of the best players that's ever stepped foot in this league. And the Ravens, top to bottom, probably still have a top 5 roster. I just think their division could catch up with them and give them enough problem to throw them off that it could catch them off guard. And just looking at Lamar Jackson season last year, he only threw 4 interceptions, but he threw a lot more balls that could have been picked off last year. So, if half those balls get picked off, and I'm not saying and wishing that he will throw more interceptions, but if he even goes from 4 interceptions to 8 to 10, that could be the difference in a couple of games, won or lost, going in next year, which could be the difference between them being a wild card team and winning that division. I like what the Patriots did in the offseason. Like I said, I just stated a lot of things. I just think they take a step up, and I think they're going to just barely edge out the Chargers this year for that last wild card spot and really solidify themselves going forward to the future of being more competitive in their division and more competitive in AFC and getting back to a semblance of competitiveness that they have the previous Bill Belichick, Tom Brady regime there. And I think the Denver Broncos, I just think their defense is too good. They have the reigning defense player of the year returning back this year. He's still a young player, a vibrant player. And I think, even though I'm not the biggest Sean Payton fan, I do think he is a very, very good coach. And I think Bo Nix had a great year last year. And I think there was a lot of room for him to improve, and I think he will improve. I think he should continue to use his legs because they were a good weapon for them last year. And I like the addition of RJ Harvey. Some of these running backs in the first round aren't going to land. But between Quinton Junkins, Mary Hampton, RJ Harvey, Ashton Genty, like one of these guys is not going to hit. If they all do, great, and I hope they all do because I wish them all success. But I think RJ Harvey in that scheme with Sean Payton could really fit and work, and we'll see how they go. But I think the Broncos will be the team to win that division. So we will see how that goes. And with that being said, let's move over to the NBA odds for next year for the conference championship. So let's start in the East this year. So I'm going to give the odds and I'm going to give how I think this would play out for next year. So the NBA Eastern Conference, right now, the betting odds are for the Cleveland Cavaliers to be in a conference championship with plus 270 odds. The New York Knicks are second with also plus 270 and some ranging up to 310. The Orlando Magic are third in the East with plus 425. Boston Celtics at plus 800. Rounding out the top five are the Philadelphia 70 plus 1100. Slightly surprised is not on this list. In the top five are the Atlanta Hawks or the Detroit Pistons, because I don't think the Detroit Pistons got any worse last year and they were a playoff team, but maybe they just don't see that there's a lot of potential for growth there, and I could definitely see that as well. And the Atlanta Hawks had one of the best off seasons this year and could have another great off season with another first round pick next year. But maybe they're just predicting that Kristaps has been just too inconsistent of a player, and maybe they don't take as big a leap as the Atlanta Hawks fan thinks they will. But I personally think Cleveland is going to have another similar year. Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley are three of the better players in the East and in the NBA period, and they have a very good coach as well. The team that I don't think is done making a move are the New York Knicks. I love Mike Brown as the new head coach there. He's a defensive guy, but he has a little bit more offense fluidity than Tom Thibodeau did. So I think that's a plus, and we'll see who he brings on his staff. But I think the New York Knicks, depending on how they're currently constituted, I can see them in the Eastern Conference Finals next year. I think the East is very open with a lot of the terrible injuries that happened throughout the year and then in the year in the playoffs this year. The loss of Tatum, loss of Halliburton, loss of Damian Lillard. I don't think Giannis will have enough in Milwaukee, and who knows if he puts Doc Rivers on the hot seat. But I think the team that's really going to take control over the East, not just next year, but the next 3 to 4 years running, is the Orlando Magic. I think them and the Houston Rockets, but I really think when you look at the additions to the team, how they drafted, and then the moves they made in the front office and on the coaching staff, them adding God from Dallas Mavericks, who's helped the development of Kyrie and Luka the past few years, especially Luka's almost whole career. I think that's huge for Paolo and Franz and Desmond Bain and Tyus and everybody coming through there, especially Chase Richardson, their first round rookie draft pick, and Benda as well. So that's going to be very interesting. And they just got an offensive assistant coach. Can't remember his name, but they got a offensive assistant coach who's won 3 championships as well, who should help Jamal Mosley's coaching staff as well. So I think the Orlando Magic are going to be the team that is vying for that top spot in the East. And I think if they can have a fully healthy year, I think people forget last year before the injury, the Magic were sitting at third in the East before Paolo missed 30 games, before Franz missed around 30 games, and then Suggs missed over half the season with the back injury. So again, I think if their roster can stay healthy, there's no reason why they can't be one of the top 2 teams and being one of the favorites to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. And then the West. So the West, Oklahoma City are at plus 140. The Houston Rockets are at plus 450. The Lakers and the Timberwolves are tied at plus 900. And the Denver Nuggets are at plus 1,000. I like this list. I think it's pretty accurate. I don't how the off seasons have made, I don't really see any teams that should be ahead of any teams that have better odds. The Oklahoma City being so young and so dominant last year with their defense, their transitional ball, point differential, and having the reigning MVP, they should definitely be the continuing favorite to come back next year if they stay healthy to be right back in the Western Conference Finals. I think a lot of teams thought Houston was one piece away, and they traded away their budding star Jalen Green for Kevin Durant, but they kept all their other pieces basically, Şengün, Van Fleet, Thompson. I mean, there's no reason if Kevin Durant continued to stay healthy and be who he's been. He still averaged 25 a year on very efficient shooting last year and was, I believe, still the best jump shooter, if not top 3 best jump shooters last year. That could be a really change for that team, and they could be a front running team, and having a guy like Kevin Durant to be able to close games for them could be huge. Denver Nuggets and the Lakers and T Wolves, none of those teams have made huge moves. The Lakers, are getting a big man, but again, I don't think that really changes anything. We'll see what LeBron James, what he does this offseason. Does he stay? Does he get traded? Does he get moved? What happens with that? And Timberwolves, they've been in the Western Conference Finals 2 years in a row. Maybe Ant. I think for the Timberwolves, Ant has to take a bigger jump in just his consistency game to game. He is somebody who drops 39 one game, comes back and drops 17 on 31% shooting that game. So I think him being more consistent game to game, really leading that team with Nas Reed. And we'll see if, a guy like Mike Conley, who's getting up there in age, can continue to stay and maintain healthy. They lost Nikhil Alexander-Walker, one of their best, if not their best, bench players. So we'll see how that affects their roster as well. But if I had to guess right now, just off of gut feel of who's in the Western Conference Finals, if everybody's healthy, I say in the West it's going to be Oklahoma City and Houston, and in the East it's probably going to be New York versus the Magic. I mean, I think those would be two very entertaining conference championships, especially because with Oklahoma coming back and being defending champion, Houston being a big market team, New York being a big market team, and Orlando, when they've made good playoff runs with, Dwight Howard having that Lakers run, making it to the finals, that was very exciting. And then even back in the day with Penny and Shaq making those finals runs coming out of the East as well. So when the Orlando Magic are good and they are getting the spotlight, and I personally think they have the best player under 25 in the league. I think Paolo Banchero next year in year 4 will be an all NBA player. He was on pace to be an all NBA player this year before missing 30 games. So we'll see how that all shakes out. But with that being said, I want to finish up with a take on the MLB rule change that I think should be maybe tested out for a year in the minor leagues and then maybe 2 years from now make it up to the major leagues. But I think this rule change will help continue to provide more excitement, make the game more watchable. And as the MLB continues to make the game more event driven, similar to like the NBA is, I think this will add more offense and make coaches and pitching staffs be more strategic in how they play. But I don't think this will take away from the game. And that's why I like this proposal. But I want to propose taking away the intentional walk. And this is primarily even more for the viewers and the fans and for competitive spirits as well. So I'll start on the fan side. Just like in any sport, if football, you don't have to deal with it nearly as much, but in basketball and baseball, even though there's a lot more games, you may have, a family that's only able to see Aaron Judge is coming to play the Oakland Athletics and he's only out there, for a series once a year. And you get out there and in a series, Aaron Judge is coming off of hitting 700 with 4 home runs in the previous series but nobody else in the Yankees lineup is doing very well. And so you get into it to where you got a close game, top of the 7th, it's a tie ball game. First two guys get on, and who wants to see an intentional walk and not see Aaron Judge have the opportunity to change the game? He may hit a home run, he may hit a double, he may get a game exploding base hit, or he may strike out. But taking away the opportunity to be able to see that and how that plays out, I think detracts from the game from a competitive standpoint and a viewership standpoint. And then you get games like James Wood had last week where he was intentionally walked 4 times in one game. And if I am a kid or I'm an adult, I don't mind a player maybe getting walked one time, intentionally walked one time, but I don't want to see a guy who had the opportunity to be a game buster get intentionally walked 4 times. I mean, just imagine the number Barry Bonds could have had he not led the league in intentional walks and walks for like a 7 or 8 year span. But I just think it takes away from the competitiveness and the viewership having these multiple intentional walk games. So I think they should, for one, I think one way you could get around it, if a pitcher throws 4 consecutive balls and doesn't throw at least one strike, you could consider that to be an intentional walk. And I think the batter should have one, just like a challenge, you should have one opportunity to tap his helmet and supersede that and have another full at bat. And the pitcher has to throw at least one strike to him. It's something that's done in travel ball and showcase tournaments that if a player gets walked, or you technically can't intentionally walk, but if a player gets walked in a showcase tournament where there's scouts or potential schools there to see him to get recruited, that player can supersede that walk and take another at bat. Now they only get one one other at bat, and normally the pitcher tries to pump a strike. But I think that helps the player out competitively and the game out competitively, and it helps better viewership for the game as well, and competitiveness for the game. I mean, we're out there to compete. We're not out there to, I mean, hack a shack, and the excessive fouling in the NBA is always a terrible watch. There's really not any of that in football, but in baseball, the excessive intentional walks, in basketball, all the fouling at the end of games really becomes to be bad viewership and bad adoption. It's part of the reason why football continues to separate itself in viewership and earnings and revenue and TV watches as well as streaming. So that's it for today. Thank y'all for chiming in. But drop a comment down below. Let me know who y'all think the divisional winners win, who will be this year. Let me know who you think will be in the Eastern and Western Conference Finals next year. And comment below if you have an opinion or a rule change of your own you'd like to see in the MLB to make the game of baseball better. But until next week, y'all take it easy.